Wait, you mean it's 3 weeks and 6 days to the release of the Flash movie? Oh my god, welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Smash the like button. If you love me, subscribe if you're new. Please have your say. A very warm welcome to Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. So it's 3 weeks and 6 days till the release of the Flash movie. Are you excited? I am excited to get all your reactions when you get to see it. It's been a long wait. We've had postponements, we've had actor controversies, and I remember predicting that the Flash movie wouldn't even be released. Yeah, holding my hands up, I was wrong. They were in such a mess, and I'm thinking if Ezra Miller didn't come out publicly and apologize and finally concede that they needed help, this film would never have been released. But it is released, and it is a movie produced and made by the old leadership, by Walter Hamada's woke DCEU. Make no mistake about it, the DCEU under Walter Hamada was going down a very woke direction. You know, go woke, go broke, Batgirl, Birds of Prey, two very, very woke movies, and the Flash movie deletes Superman, reverse engineers Supergirl from Flashpoint Superman to Flashpoint Supergirl. So Walter Hamada was going down a very woke direction. I think it's very, very interesting how they're using Zack Snyder's DC trilogy to promote the Flash movie. Superman was the heart of the Snyderverse. In the Flash movie, Superman, Henry Cavill's Superman, has been deleted. In fact, apart from a little Speed Force old bit of Superman footage, there is no Superman in the Flash movie. Unless they've done something, unless they've shot a scene, which I very, very much doubt. So they deleted Superman from the Flash movie, and now they're using Zack Snyder's trilogy to promote a movie that has deleted Superman. Make it make sense. I get it. The Snyderverse is an important part of the Flash movie because part of the movie treads in 2013's Man of Steel. I get it. I understand. But you trod in a movie without the star of that movie. As I've already said, you've reverse engineered Flashpoint Superman into Flashpoint Supergirl. None of these decisions make sense to me. It's bad enough you've deleted Superman, but it's even worse that you're using, free movies where Superman is actually the heart of every one of Zack Snyder's movies. Zack Snyder has said that. You deleted Superman from The Flash and you're using these free movies to promote a movie that deleted Superman. I'm never going to understand the aesthetics and the motivations of deleting Superman from the Flash movie, literally taking him out of the DCEU. It never really made sense. We're getting Superman Legacy, written and directed by James Gunn. But what was the plan for Walter Hamada? Where was Superman going to be? Nowhere. Nada. Their idea was to do a woke black Clark Kent in an Elseworld black Clark Kent, black Kal-El, black Superman story. They were doing Val Zod. That was it. Al Kal-El, Henry Cavill, would be deleted so they could again reverse engineer and give us a black Clark Kent. So Hamada, as I said earlier, was definitely going in a very, very woke direction. So for you Hamada fans, that's what you were going to get. Would you have been happy with Henry Cavill's Superman, the white Clark Kent, Kal-El, who's always been white, by the way? There's been black versions of Superman, which is cool. I've always been cool with that. I'd love to see President Superman be adapted. I'd love to see Val Zod be adapted. That's what Hamada was going to do. What happened there? What happened? Michael B. Jordan was going to produce it. What happened to Val Zod? It's vanished. And guess what? We're getting a Superman Legacy movie. Will that be a white Superman? Would it be a Latino Superman? Would it be an African American Superman? We simply don't know. Because it's very, very interesting, isn't it? That's why I think James Gunn's leading us up the garden path and leaking these so-called, casting rumours for Superman, Kal-El, the last son of Krypton. I think it's quite possible we may get a black Superman or a Latino Superman or an Asian Superman. And depending on that actor, I will respond and I will tell you what I think. No, I do not want a minority, representational casting for Superman. Kal-El, the last son of Krypton, is white. Always should be, always will be. Should always be a white actor playing Kal-El, the last son of Krypton. But I don't trust modern day Hollywood. But while we're here and no announcements have been made, as I've already said to you, I'm going in with an open mind with James Gunn. I'm willing to concede that this is a really talented writer-director, and I'm going to give him a chance. So prove me wrong. But it is 3 weeks and 6 days. It is 3 weeks and 6 days, I think, till they release the Flash movie. So it is weird how they're promoting this movie, how they're using, a trilogy of films that had Henry Cavill's Superman as the heart of the story. And I know what they're doing because basically the Flash movie is using Snyderverse canon. It isn't Justice League canon, it's Snyderverse canon. That's one thing I can assure you of. But it's very weird that they decided to, delete Superman in the Flash movie forever. Basically, the DCEU wasn't going to have a Superman. And in terms of Batman, they were going to have, a 70, 80-year-old man playing Batman, being the new DCEU Batman. Michael Keaton, because he's one of the most popular versions. That's what they were going to do. But again, they were going to do a bait and switch with him as well. He was going to train up Barbara Gordon. That was the whole idea of Batgirl. In the Batgirl movie, she was going to be the main Bat character. And he was just going to be a mentor, right? Dressing up as Batman now and again. That's what we were going to get in Walter Hamada's DCEU. No Superman, an older Batman, basically meaning that Batgirl would be the main Bat character. Again, let me know in the comments, would you have been happy with that? This was going to be a fucking car crash, and David Zaslav was very well aware of that and knew that Hamada had to go. Hamada was never the answer. You can argue that his name is on Aquaman and Aquaman made $1 billion. Now tell me about the 5 movies that have been released, all with Hamada's name on them. Flops, right? The only movie I can say, I don't mind that movie from those 5 flops is James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, which is genuinely a very, very good CBM. But the rest of them, forget it. Absolute car crashes. There's no question about that. Some of those films failed because of the pandemic, and I agree with that. They still weren't very good movies. So James Gunn's going to take us down a new direction. Maybe he will be woke as well. I mean, he did change the gender of that dog in Guardians Volume 3. So really, who knows? But as I say, going in with an open mind, that's very, very important. But I don't understand how you can use the Snyderverse, and this will excite some Snyderverse fans, I understand that, how you can use the Snyderverse to promote the Flash movie when you literally basically booted Cavill out of the DCEU. You used that film to delete Henry Cavill's Superman. It absolutely makes no sense. Because when you get to that Flash movie and you watch that Flash movie, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's a good movie or a bad movie, I don't think it's a bad movie. I don't think it's one of the best CBMs ever made, but it's okay, right? But it has issues. It has all the usual DCEU, Hamada, Whedon, Emmerich, problems. Or if you hate Snyder, look, it was a mess. The whole thing was a mess. And what James Gunn's doing here is the best thing. A reboot. Now, it's a soft reboot. Now, I wanted a full reboot, but it's better than nothing. He knows he has to go down another direction. It's going to be the James Gunn direction. And whether or not the James Gunn direction's going to work, we're going to have to wait and see. But it is 3 weeks and 6 days to the release of the Flash movie. I am excited to see what the finished article of this film is. I've been reporting on this film and discussing this film on my channel and on my daily videos ever since it was announced. I started with huge excitement that they were going to make everything in DC live actions past canon. That sounded really exciting. But then, at the same breath, they deleted Henry Cavill, and I didn't realise at the time when they announced Sasha as Supergirl, she was going to replace Henry Cavill in the DCEU. It's absolutely fucking outrageous, if you ask me. But we are getting a Superman. We are getting a Superman movie. So that's one mistake, you know, that Hamada made has already been overwritten. Now, I want to continue talking about James Gunn's comments about Superman the movie. If you didn't know, he's ranked Superman the movie, directed by Dick Donner and starring Christopher Reeve, as the Man of Steel, and Clark Kent as number 2 in his CBM rankings of all time. Now, I was speaking about this yesterday, but when I did the video, I didn't realise he actually said a little bit, quite a bit, about the movie. He said one of the things he loves about Superman the movie is that Superman enjoys being a good guy. He enjoys being Superman. It's not the whole Cavill thing, you know, Superman was never real, you know, things like that. He wants to be Superman in Superman the movie. It's joyful for him to take a cat that's stuck up in a tree and give it to a little kid and make her day. And this is what James Gunn was talking about. Now, Gunn makes a valid point. Now, I ain't stupid. James Gunn is saying he loves one of the most successful Superman movies of all time. The most popular Superman movie of all time. And he's telling the audience, listen, we know some of you love Man of Steel. A lot of you hated Man of Steel. We're not going down that direction. We're going back to the joyfulness of Superman. A character who joyfully wants to help people, right? And this is the message they want to put out there, that we're going with the traditional Superman, truth, justice, the American way, the red trunks, the whole caboodle. So this is why he's had this ranking, and he's done this, was it on CBR or whatever he did it on, and explaining every choice. And there's a reason that he's got Superman the movie at number 2. There's a reason he's celebrating Superman the movie. A few months ago, he was in a hotel room or something, and he put a picture of a telly on, and it had the beginning bit of the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2. And you know that bit where it says this is the intended vision of Richard Donner for Superman 2, or whatever it says at the beginning of that movie. So I think he's tried to make it abundantly clear that he loves Dick Donner's Superman the movie, he loves the Donner cut, and we're going to go down a traditional way. But I think also James Gunn will make his own Superman movie. Now, it's very important that Superman Legacy doesn't go down the Star Wars, the Force Awakens situation, where you rip off Star Wars and you hope, because that film just simply doesn't make sense. I think, like, The Force Awakens is probably the best out of the sequel trilogy, if you ask me, but it's a rip-off of A New Hope, and even worse, it waits to the ending to introduce Luke Skywalker back into the franchise again. It was fucking insane. But, you know, Superman Legacy can't be Superman the movie. They cannot go down the Force Awakens direction. It will hurt them. It will, you know, if you want to make a traditional Superman, that's great. But make your own traditional Superman. Otherwise, you're going to have problems. And when people come to review your film and go to watch your film, they're going to see what you're doing. You see, nostalgia's okay in places. You can be nostalgic in Superman Legacy, but you've got to be careful how you're nostalgic. One of the big questions is, will they use John Williams' Superman the movie theme, or will James Gunn get his composer, whoever that is, to compose a brand new Superman theme? Where am I on this? It's a very, very, you know, arduous subject, and of course, with everything else, the whole fandom is divided. No, they should never have used Christopher Reeve's theme, John Williams' theme, for the Henry Cavill Superman. Henry Cavill had already had a great, compelling theme composed by Hans Zimmer, Idea of Hope. That's all you needed. So that's where my opinion is there. Now, in terms of using John Williams' theme for Superman Legacy, well, James has already said that this will go down its own direction, but it will also celebrate previous iterations of Superman. How are they going to do this without it not being a multiversal Spider-Man No Way Home kind of movie? So that could be the way we're going, or it just could be done in cameos. And they could use Williams' Superman theme somewhere as a one-off. Now, as far as I know, I think, did John Williams compose the latest Indiana Jones movies score? I think he did, because he did all the others, of course. He's announced he's retiring. Could it be that John Williams could do one more score in his career for Superman Legacy? Could James Gunn pull this off? How would you feel if John Williams came out of retirement just to score one last movie, a Superman movie? Wouldn't that be poetic? Would that upset you? Would you be happy? Would you be frustrated? How would you feel about that? I personally would be very, very excited, but I'd also be very excited if Hans Zimmer or Junkie XL came back to score Superman Legacy. It's not going to happen, by the way. I don't think that Zimmer or Junkie XL are James's kind of composers. He may use the composer he used on the Suicide Squad, his usual composer. I think he's probably the same guy he used on the Guardians movies as well. But he could use Michael Giacchino, who's doing a lot of CBMs these days. He's done Star Wars. Michael Giacchino started working with J.J. Abrams on Alias and Lost. Michael's music is some of the most compelling, unique music. I still say his Lost score is the best thing he ever did. So I wouldn't be opposed to Michael Giacchino, because Michael Giacchino is a great composer. I gave him a shout out the other day and he actually liked the tweet. I said to him that I loved his Arvin Sloane theme on Alias, and I want it played at my funeral when everyone's complaining about how I wronged them. Hey, why not, eh? It's a great theme. You've probably never heard of Alias. If you've never seen Alias, go and watch it. It's one of the best shows ever. 5 seasons, espionage, it's brilliant. Back to DC now. So Michael Giacchino, great composer. But I've had it in the back of my mind that Gunn may try and coax John Williams out of retirement, because he's only just retired. I mean, the man must be, I think the man's 90 now. Is he 90? Is he 100? I don't know. But he's still composing. So there is a real possibility that John Williams could compose Superman Legacy. It's the percent is very, very low and very unlikely. But how would you like that nostalgia? I'm not going to lie. Superman the movie, as I bore you about every day, was the first movie I ever saw. John Williams, Star Wars music, Indy, E.T., Superman, fucking perfect. The man's a fucking legend. And whether you're a Snyderverse stan or a Christopher Reeve stan or whatever you are, right? You can't take away what John Williams is. Some of you will say, well, that's in the past, we should do something new. I understand that. Some people say, why not? He's a great composer, and wouldn't it be poetic for him to finish his career doing one last Superman movie? He only did Superman the movie. He rejected Superman 2, Superman 3 and Superman 4 because Dick Donner wasn't involved, and because of how Dick Donner was booted off the franchise after Superman the movie. Now, John won't say that publicly. He says he has scheduling problems because John isn't, he's not a toxic guy, and he doesn't want to bring his issues with what happened to the bubble publicly. But I'm hearing that's the reason he never came back after Superman the movie. So I'm fine with John Williams doing one final score in his career and it being Superman Legacy. Could James Gunn pull that off? Would he want to pull it off? We'll see. But if we don't get John Williams, what composer would you like James Gunn to bring on for Superman Legacy? Let me know. Do you want the original Superman theme from John Williams used? Do you want something new? But what kind of composers would you like to see composing Superman Legacy? I mean, look, there's so many fabulous composers. As bad as the industry is right now, one of the things that's as strong as ever are the composers. We've got some wonderful composers. I mean, like, there's a lot of controversy over the latest Disney animated movie turned to live action. But I tell you what, the music and the singing, the lyrical genius in that film is absolutely fantastic. I forgot what it's called now. It's the latest Disney live action movie, but the music is very good. You can't argue about the music. I mean, they've done some woke changes, but the music and the lyrical stuff is amazing. So music in film is still at its top level. It's a shame the storytelling and everything else is on its knees, but composers are still doing a great job, and that's brilliant. So we have a huge list of composers that we could choose. Now, another one I talk about all the time is Rupert Gregson Williams. He killed it with the first Wonder Woman. He killed it with the first Aquaman. I would love to see Rupert Gregson Williams, score Superman Legacy. Ultimately, I think we're just going to get a very underwhelming announcement, and it's going to be, is it Brian Murphy that James Gunn uses? I can't remember. I just think he's going to probably use the same composer he always does. But again, let's see if James Gunn understands where he is. You're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. You're literally gone from Marvel, which is Kansas, to Superman, which is Oz, right? You're on the yellow brick road now, James. Making a Superman movie is not the same as making a Guardians movie or a Suicide Squad movie or a streaming show called Peacemaker. There's no bigger than Superman. And I say every day, and I'm sure people get frustrated, but it's important that we all understand the depth of the challenge in front of James Gunn. And I hope, and I'm sure that he understands the depth of the challenge. I want to talk about Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, the two lads who created Superman. Now, they're long gone now, so they're not lads anymore. These were two Jewish immigrants. They felt powerless in a very, very difficult world at the time. We were approaching a Second World War. It was a very, very different world. There was no internet. They didn't have handheld devices. They had nothing apart from radios and comic books. They dreamt of being comic book writers and artists because basically comic book people were millionaires and celebrities. It's like waking up today and wanting to be a TikTok, star. It's the same thing, but different. And so they used to write and do their art, but they came up with Superman. So they came up with the idea, and the original concept was the idea of Friedrich Nietzsche, of the strong man, of the Superman. And basically, originally, their idea for Superman was a bald madman. Now, eventually, they turned this bald madman into a heroic old kind of 40s or late 30s strong man. And he became Superman from another planet. And even that was rejected at first by Detective Comics. But in the end, they decided to create a new brand of comics called Action Comics, and they thought Superman would be perfect to launch it. Now, the original, what was their concept of Superman? Is it the Superman that we see in live action and animation and even comics today? No, because their Superman wasn't picking up cats who were stuck in a tree. He weren't destroying world engines. This guy was basically there to protect the inflicted, the weak. He would beat up mine owners who were abusing their employees. Basically, he was beating up men who were beating up their wives. Basically, Superman was protecting the oppressed. He was the original social justice warrior. And that's what Superman was back then. And it's because Jerry and Joe were these two immigrants that felt powerless. I've spoken about this before. I think one of their dads died in a burglary or something like that. You'll see pictures of either Jerry or Joe lifting weights because they just felt powerless. They wanted to be Superman, but they couldn't. So they empowered themselves by creating Superman. They didn't know how big Superman was going to become. And they learned a lot of lessons after creating Superman. For example, they were stiffed by DC badly. They barely got any money for their creation. I mean, this is what happens to people. They get stitched up, and they were inexperienced and they were taken advantage of. And it's very, very sad. But this is the way the world works, unfortunately. So this is what their Superman was in Action Comics #1 and in the early comics in general. And in fact, we've never seen this version of Superman in animation or live action. I think it would be refreshing. I spoke about this a lot, by the way. If I did a Superman movie, one of the things I would consider doing is taking Superman back to his roots. And I think that would be a good thing, that we have a Superman that's protecting the oppressed, because this is how Siegel and Schuster started him off. I would like that. Instead of him fighting aliens and destroying spaceships and other things, basically going after big business. Now, some people these days may call that woke. I don't call that woke. I think going after the rich and the powerful and the corrupt is a great thing. The problem is with Superman, he's so powerful. So if he's just going after, kind of corrupt business people, it's a bit of a problem because he's so powerful. It's difficult. So this is why they try and find greater threats for him. So I don't see James Gunn taking him back to his roots. He may reference those roots, which will be cool within itself. But I did want to discuss how Jerry and Joe, the creators of Superman, saw Superman. And it was about protecting the oppressed. And this is one of the reasons I love Superman. I love the origins and how he was introduced to society. Don't forget, people like soldiers, Allied soldiers in the Second World War were reading Superman and later on Wonder Woman. Those comics were the only thing keeping those boys going. As I say, it was a very, very different world. Picture for a minute what kind of world that was, where a character like Wonder Woman and Superman and Batman were invented. I was watching a video yesterday and they were talking about how the MCU is on its knees. One thing I can guarantee you, once you insult your audience's intelligence, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And that's what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done. Now, in this video I was watching, I forgot what YouTuber, what content creator made it, but it was interesting because he was speaking to a guy and he was saying Marvel thought they could just do anything, they could sell any shit to the Marvel fans and they would buy it, and that this hasn't been the case. People have seen through their little, identity politics plan and all of that, and it hasn't worked. And now, I just come back to Disney to fix a mess. Disney Plus, lots of trouble. And I think, as I say, and the guy who he was asking the opinion of on this channel, he was saying, look, Marvel don't really have enough big characters, to keep this going. Where DC have got Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and even the lesser characters are more epic and interesting than the Marvel smaller characters. And then you look at DC's villains, they're huge. Joker, the Penguin, there's so many great villains, Harley Quinn, etc., etc., etc. DC have got the characters, villains and heroes, in their armory to do something special. And this is the opportunity and the potential that James Gunn can use if he's got all his cups in his cupboard. So there's a big advantage at DC, which was never taken advantage of over at the DCEU, even with Snyder. And I love his films, as I tell you all the time. But the advantage, there's so many different sections of DC you can have. You can have your self-contained universe, like James Gunn's going to do with DC Universe. You can have your Elseworlds, and I really hope they take advantage of the Elseworlds situation, because I think that's important, because there's so many great things you can do with DC Elseworlds, loads of great things, and it would be a missed opportunity if they didn't take advantage of that. And I think, look, like James Gunn's smart enough to understand what needs to happen. If James Gunn does the right things here, not only are we going to beat Marvel, but we're going to leave them in the dust. But ultimately, Marvel started this. They started the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, empires are destroyed from within. And DC have the potential to be great. Can they? Will they? Only time will tell. Well, this is Movies TV Mad and the DC Universe Daily, Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, smash the like button. If you love me, subscribe if you're new. Please have your say, and I will see you again in the next video. Till I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.